Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Josh Jezard and I'm the Marketing Executive here at Pro Group. Pro Group is the leading recruitment agency specialising in tax, legal, finance and HR across the UK. Just a quick question. I just want to test the sound. So if you can hear me, can you just raise your hand in the little dialogue box on the side and just check the sound's working? Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I'm seeing some hands. Lovely. Okay, so that means the sound's working. Fantastic. So today we're going to explore the next steps of your finance career. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any technical problems with today's webinar, please make us aware in the dialog box to the right of your screen. This webinar will be recorded, so we'll make sure to send a copy to you. Also, I'd like to just say that if you have any questions during the presentation, you can type them in the dialog box on the control panel. And we'll look to answer as many of these as we can, but if we don't, our presenters will revert back to you directly in the coming week. Also, we'll be monitoring our Twitter handle, which is @ProRecGroup, and we'll be using the hashtag ProNextStep. So if you want to ask any questions or have any feedback, we will be monitoring that as well. So now, without further ado, I'll pass you on to Tom Eagle, who is the Associate Director of Pro Finance.
Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar and thanks for tuning in. As Josh said, I'm the Director at Pro Finance. And what we're looking to do today is give you an insight into what options are available to you, whether you're coming up to qualification or have qualified in the last few years. And we're joined by 3 industry-leading partners. So it's really your opportunity to ask those questions that you can't always ask at interview or you don't want to ask to your current firm. And what they'll be able to give you is a really non-biased understanding of the options available. And allow you to make the right choices within your career. So in terms of who will benefit from this webinar, we're just going to put up a quick poll. So if you could all just quickly answer that. It's really just to get an understanding of where you are in your career, whether you are currently studying for exams, whether you're qualified, or whether you're sort of 2+ years PQE. So if you could all answer that, it should be on the right-hand side of your screen. And it looks like we've got a fair mixture as the results come in. So yeah, it looks like the majority of people are either coming up to qualify or have just qualified, which is brilliant. So this webinar will really be very suited for you in terms of being able to get an understanding of the options available to you, the different size firms, and really how you can manage your career going forward. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, we're joined by 3 experts today. So what I'm going to do now is just pass you over to them to give you a bit of an introduction and a bit about their career overview. So, Grant, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tom. So I've been man and boy at PwC. Joined as a graduate and started working on sort of large global companies. I was always fascinated by investment banking, so I decided to leave in the mid-2000s and had a year in M&A at Goldman Sachs in investment banking. And then came back to PwC again. Since then, I've had a varied career from sort of auditing, again, some of the large sort of global FTSE 100 companies, but really focusing on asset management over the last sort of 10-15 years, from large listed asset managers through to boutique, real estate, private equity and hedge fund managers. I've also done a lot of transactional work, both on purchase and vendor DD, through to equity and debt issuances, actually quite a lot of that during the financial crisis. And then since about 2012, I've been building up the regulatory advisory group focused on asset and wealth managers. So actually a large part of my role now is developing the team, but also winning and delivering project work.
Fantastic. Cheers for that, Grant. Jamie?
I'm Jamie Cassell from Safri. My career has been a little bit more varied than Grant's. I've moved around a little bit. So I started off in a relatively small firm in London, which was great experience actually, because it allowed me to really understand double entry bookkeeping, and also don't want to give my age away here, but also extended trial balances, which I'm assuming the majority of you have not heard about. Lucky for you. So I then moved, once I qualified, I then decided I wanted to get a big firm experience. So I moved to BDO, where I was able to gain quite a bit of experience from large international groups, listed company work, a bit similar to grant transactional support services such as financial due diligence, and also financial assistance on share buybacks. So quite wide and varied work whilst at BDO. It also enabled me to start to build my network of contacts and potential clients in the future, which becomes more and more important as you move up the promotional ladder. Since 2014, I've been at Safri Champness, working in our business advisory group, looking after a wide and varied portfolio of clients, really ranging from recruitment companies to listed natural resources companies. So as you can see, quite wide and varied. The majority of my clients are really based around highly skilled entrepreneurial businessmen that certainly keep you on your toes, and also gives you a really good understanding of commercial and strategic aspects of businesses.
Fantastic. Cheers for that, Jamie. And Darsh?
Hi all. Yes, I pretty much started my career as a graduate trainee and qualified at a firm called MRI Moores Rowland, which is now part of Mazars. So I started off in audit, and until I left to go to Deloitte, I continued in that service line. At Deloitte, it was a complete surprise of just how big the firm was, but took in my stride and started off in audit, and for the 6.5 years there, I progressed into audit and corporate finance, predominantly in the product and services sector. So a lot of household retail names, household health clubs, etc. Gained a lot of experience. Had a stint abroad for just about 18 months in Australia and Singapore. Came back as a director and decided to go back to a similar setup to a firm where I had trained, which was kind of a smaller mid-tier firm. Hence, ended up at Adler Shine in 2006. I have been there since. Predominantly, my role now is in audit and corporate finance. But again, when I say corporate finance, more transactional support for financial due diligences for buyers, sellers, etc. And I maintain a core audit portfolio in a number of sectors. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Cheers, Darsh. So we'll get started now with some of the questions. If you've got any questions yourself while we're going on, just pop them in there, the dialogue box on your screen, and we'll either answer them as we go, if they're relevant to the conversation, or we'll come back to the end. So just quickly running through the agenda, we're going to cover 4 main areas. We'll look at specialisms and talk about what do you want to do, the different areas you can get involved in. We'll talk about the different firms, what's on offer in terms of mid-tier, big 4, small independents, and then we'll talk about sort of your career and in terms of how you can manage that and progress yourself further. And then finally, what the guys will do is give you a bit of insight to their individual firms and what they look for in people and what's going on there at the moment. So if we start with the specialisms, so Darsh, if we start with you, obviously you mentioned you began your career in audit. Is this something you'd always sort of seen yourself going into? And I mean, how did you broaden your experience when you were training, etc.?
To be perfectly honest now, I never thought I would go into audit. I applied to become a chartered accountant because I needed some structure after university, just something that made me kind of ready for the real world, and I didn't feel that the degree was enough. So the only things that made sense were to have a training contract in a reputable accountancy firm that enabled me to have a qualification, but at the same time come out a pretty solid business advisor at the end of it. So no, audit was what was kind of selected for me, but it's probably the best move that's happened because I feel like I have gained tremendous experience being in there. I also knew once I qualified within the firm in the audit department, it would open doors in various other service lines. As a result of audit experience, I had a secondment in corporate finance and also in not-for-profit work at Deloitte. I spent a year abroad post the tsunami doing stuff that had nothing to do with accountancy or audit, but it was probably one of the most interesting things I've done at that point in my career. And as a result of the early days of training at Le Shine, my role is quite mixed now. I have a core audit portfolio, as I already mentioned, which varies from large owner-managed companies, groups, to listed clients in the AIM and ISDX markets. I also have a fast-growing non-audit portfolio of clients that have actually led into audit and completed the whole journey into transactional work because they've either had private equity or are sold out to their competition. So I just think if you're not sure where you want to enter, but you want a good qualification, start off in audit because actually it opens doors to everything else.
Fantastic. Cheers, Dash. Grant, you mentioned obviously man and boy, Big Four. In terms of yourself and what you've seen with your peers, what sort of specialisms have you been involved in and what's on offer?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think the underlying reason, Tom, that I'm still at PwC is really the variety of work that I've had, as well as the diverse nature of the client base. In terms of how we organise, this probably helps explain the sort of specialism question you asked. We're organised along audit and risk assurance, and within there we cover the really big guys through to the sort of private entrepreneurial type market. Risk assurance tends to be more project-based, so that's where I'm currently sitting at the moment, doing sort of regulatory projects. We also have tax, deals, consulting, and legal. So actually, you know, one of the benefits, I guess, is we're sort of a one-stop shop for a lot of our clients. And as well as that, we're obviously a global firm and therefore have exposure to different territories and countries, which give candidates quite a lot of optionality, actually, around having a varied career about trying other places. My personal take is that actually the firm does everything, and it's really, really hard on the personal level to find other specialisms. So what people tend to lapse to are the personal networks and also the networks that you have from your sort of immediate network. So a lot of it's really word of mouth. But the one thing that I learned quite early on was you need proactivity to really find this out. So you need to talk to people, and don't be ashamed to actually talk to people who are more senior to you. Just ask them, you know, look, how did you find the specialism, or what? How do I come across this piece if this is what I'm interested in? So I think actually these days it's really hard to make director or partner unless you've had some sort of different experience. So whether that's, say, transactional work and deals, perhaps management consulting, or even in a different territory. And some people actually leave the firm and come back. And you know, at one point that was taboo, but these days it's seen as a real feather in your cap because you come back with a diverse viewpoint. So these days, if you haven't had that experience, this actually could be a potential blocker in your career, starting at a big firm. But actually, it's interesting because at the moment, we're actually starting to see a real change in the profile of the people, obviously a proactive change in the sort of diversity of the graduates that we're employing now. So there's a much more centered and focused view around those who've got tech experience, data experience, and cyber. So actually, we feel like a massive global company, but with the sort of entrepreneurial flair and pushing into data and tech.
Perfect. Cheers for that. So I guess obviously Darcy and Grant have mentioned the different specialisms, and I think obviously some people, when you get your training contract, you'll be looking at audit, CF, or tax, and that's kind of where you'll specialise. But I think what's good if Jamie, you could give us an overview of somewhere like Safri's, you get, I guess, a variety of sectors and a lot of variety in terms of the clients you're working with.
Yeah, we do, Tom. That's quite right. I mean, but we're slightly different from the Big Four and maybe BDO and GT. We don't have sectors that our guys will go into. So, for example, they won't go into natural resources or they won't go into banking. What we try and give them is a really wide and varied experience across a number of sectors. We as a firm, we do specialise in certain areas or certain sectors, and those will be recruitment companies, as I said previously, professional services firms as well, retail, leisure and hospitality, food and beverage, We also do quite a lot on film and TV, certainly around the tax credit area that is sitting within film and TV. We do sports and entertainment, and when I say sports and entertainment, we deal with a lot of sportsmen, not the football clubs. We do some of the sports agents as well as trade bodies. So what you can see I'm getting to is the fact that Safri Chambliss is quite has a varied sector focus. We have our sector specialisms, but what we try and make sure is that all our graduates and trainees and qualified staff get variety and get experience within those different sectors. I do agree with what Grant says. There is what people need to do nowadays is to ask for support, ask for information on different types of sectors, experience different types of sectors, and then decide on where they think they would enjoy working. And inevitably, that's what we try and do with our trainees. We try and give them, and our qualified staff, we try and give them as much support and as much opportunity as they can get to determine which way they want their career to go within our practice.
Fantastic. And I think from a recruitment point of view, the one thing that I guess jumps out at me in terms of what all the guys have said is the variety. I think sometimes there's preconceived ideas of you've got to go to the Big Four or you've got to go down this route. But actually, like everyone has said, regardless of the firm and its size, you do get a lot of opportunities to get involved in different things. Dance mentioned corporate finance and the transaction side. Obviously, Grant mentioned in terms of focusing on different clients, and obviously James mentioned the different sector focuses. So regardless of where you take your career firm-wise, there is variety everywhere you go. And I think what we'll do now is move on to, I guess, the benefits of the different size firms. Obviously, the guys gave you a background and they've all worked for various firms. So, I mean, do you want to give us your personal opinion on what your firm can offer and where you've worked previously? Grant, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, well, Tom, I think you probably alluded to it in the sort of build-up to this, which is, and we've talked about this a bit before, which is for PwC it's a variety. So, both in terms of the project work you can do, but also the sort of high-profile, not only projects, but also clients that we have. The global coverage is a real pull for us, and, actually global mobility is what we call it. It's something that's really, really encouraged, and often we see, sort of between 10 and 20%, depending on the year, sort of moving around the globe. And I think also the ability to take different paths in your career without having to actually leave the firm. So if you want to try transactional work, or you want to try deals work, business recovery services, when you get a sort of down cycle, you can do that without leaving. But I think the firm today is going to be very different in 5 or 10 years' time. So the way that we audit, the way that we do project work will be so tech and data heavy. Perhaps not in 5, but certainly in 10 years. And therefore, I think the opportunities going forward are going to be more rather than less. And, it's actually been quite a cultural learning for us, because the profile of the candidates that we're getting now, not all of them are classically like us, graduates getting a chartered accountancy degree. A lot of these guys are coming with a real sort of data and tech angle, and often from startups. So, in order to be agile and attract that talent, we need to also have that sort of entrepreneurial flair to us, which is what we're really trying to build in at the moment. But I think for those out there, there's going to be so much opportunity going forward. We're also very people and team focused, and one of the reasons actually I came back in the mid sort of 2000s was just the support you get for self-development. And going through the partner process a few years ago now, but I had an outside mentor and an internal mentor, actually, which was provided by PwC, to really help me think about sort of emotional intelligence, how you connect with people, and how you operate and chair big meetings, and how you sort of interact with the C-suite. And I don't think at some companies, perhaps outside of practice, I would have got that. So actually, I'm really thankful for that time, because I developed as a person. And that's not just at that grade, that's at all grades. You get that sort of support. But again, it comes back to proactivity and you wanting to search for that and you wanting to commit and do that. But inevitably, over time, that really pays dividends, because you develop and you become more marketable.
Okay, fantastic. Cheers for that. Jamie, how about Safri's?
So funny enough, I wholeheartedly agree with what Grant was saying. It's very similar at Safri, Champness as well. I mean, I think Grant is absolutely right. The industry that we are in today will be totally different in 5 years, 10 years time, and the type of graduates and trainees that we will be getting and qualified staff that we will be getting in 5 and 10 years time will be totally different to what they are today, which makes it a very exciting time to be within the sector, to be becoming a qualified chartered accountant, which at times is difficult to explain, but it is true. We are relatively exciting people, so and only time will only the changes that we will see will show how entrepreneurial we are in our thought process and how we deliver to our clients. From a Safri Champness perspective, we are. What I would say is that we, like most accountancy firms, have a large variety of clients. We are a mid-tier firm, so the type of clients we get are very entrepreneurial, SME businesses that will range from the very small to the relatively large. So what does that mean? That enables us to then give our qualified staff a lot of opportunity to have face time with business owners and therefore learn from business owners from a commercial perspective, from a strategic perspective, and understand how to interact with people that are in a higher position to a certain extent, and also to understand how to deliver service and inevitably, like all service-driven industries, the client is always put first. What I would say is that to enable our qualified staff to have those experiences, we give them the relevant support that they need. So a lot of the stuff that Grant was talking about, mentoring, counselling, providing them open and honest feedback, that's certainly what we do, and and we take a lot of pride in doing that. All our trainees and qualified staff will on day one have a counselling manager and a counselling partner. They'll be from day one spoken about their objectives, how they're going to develop going forward, and where they see themselves in 2-3 years time, and what the plan of action is to get them to where they want to get to. Inevitably, as they're progressing through the relevant grades, there is open and honest feedback. But a lot of it is all about, certainly in our firm, it is all about having a collegiate environment, a collegiate culture, and therefore we're all striving to go in one direction, but to ensure that our staff are constantly being challenged. We are part of a global network, so our staff are able to go overseas when the business case is correct. We also have numerous divisions within our firm that enable whether our staff can move around. A number of my qualified seniors are now doing corporate finance secondments, which seems to be the flavour of the month for a lot of qualified seniors. And accountancy firms can provide that support and give them a real understanding of what corporate finance is about. But it is all really about giving the staff the opportunities to develop, to grow, and become, I suppose, business leaders of the future, because inevitably all our firms will want to continue to grow. Unfortunately, Grant, Darsh and myself aren't getting any younger, so therefore we need our qualified staff to come through and to be those that take over the running of the firm.
Okay, brilliant. Cheers for that, Jamie. And Darsh, a little bit about Adlershine?
Yeah, sure. Before I kick into that, again, I have to agree with both my colleagues here. The profession is changing, and it's going to be a lot different in the next 5 to 10 years. But that means that's really exciting time for those either going through qualification. I have recently qualified, because this sector is just going to be pretty amazing as far as we're concerned in regards to growth, progression, and development. At Adlershine, I would say my key reason to join a firm that is a North London based, what we call a mid-tier or a small mid-tier firm, was pretty much I wanted to join a firm where I can have a direct say, have influence in its strategy, growth, and actually since being there, I've observed the firm to go from a small firm into a big little award-winning firm, and that is one. I suppose it's not often someone can find what I would call a home like that, where they can have so much influence over its growth. As far as I'm concerned, the firm, because of our size, 9 partners, 90 odd staff, we always have constantly variety, a whole lot of variety of work, interestingly challenging work, because unfortunately we have to come up with most of the answers first before we can seek outside counsel where we have to. So it constantly keeps us on our toes. But at the same time, personal development and growth has been phenomenal in the last few years. We're pretty hot on this in the sports media and entertainment sector. A lot of household names are our clients, but unfortunately we can't shout about them. So, best thing is just join us and you'll find out who they are. And the perks of being the size we are, we're a very close partner group and pretty close to staff as well. So very reactive with our staff, especially recently qualified. We're a bit lost sometimes, not sure what they want to do, and they seem to make decisions pretty hastily. And we have recently prevented those kind of hasty decisions and I think it's worked out for both us and those who just qualified. We just made someone who graduated with us, trained with us and qualified with us, a partner, still barely in his 30s. We've got a couple of directors coming through who didn't know what to do after they spent time in audit. They're now doing their tax exams and going to have a career there. So yeah, constantly moving with the times. We're allowed to do that because we have the flexibility and we're agile enough to do it because of our size. We think it works for us.
Okay, brilliant. I think, again, sort of from a recruitment point of view, what all the guys have said there is, again, there's a lot of variety, but I think the one thing I take away from that is you need to find the right support environment. Yes, you have a variety of clients and the variety of sector exposure, but you need to be in a firm where, and you'll get this benefit from regardless of the size, but it has to be the right firm in terms of people that will support you and put those development plans in place and actually give you the opportunity to make the most of your career. And that's something we're gonna just move on to talk about actually. So there's another quick poll actually. Do you feel in control of your career? Is the question. And this is a really interesting one because obviously we've talked about the different firms and the different roles available, but now do you actually feel like you can achieve what you want to achieve? So if people could start answering that, that'd be fantastic. And it's looking like most people are saying yes. Well, all the results are in. So that's a fairly even split, 57% yes. I mean, it's fantastic that 57% do feel that, but obviously it's disappointing that almost half don't. And I think whether you do feel in control or not, we can talk about how you can try and exert more control over your career because you know where you want to get to and you know what you want to achieve, but how do you do it? You can accelerate it and actually make more of what you're doing. So, Jamie, I mean, in terms of Safaris, what do you do in terms of helping your employees with their career advancement?
So I think I've mentioned it a couple of times as we've gone through the last 20 minutes, half an hour. There's a number of ways that we try and help our staff with their career development. One is variety of work. Two is variety of sectors. The reason I mention those two is to show that they keep challenged, that they themselves feel that they're progressing, that they're doing different things, or different activities on a daily basis and aren't just doing one specific thing over a period of time, which inevitably can bring boredom to a certain extent. So they're two of the things. Now, the third thing that we take very seriously is just generally career development and support that we provide to our qualified staff. We are a people business at the end of the day, so therefore it is very important that we help and develop and support our staff in whichever direction they want to go to. So whether that is purely by staying in audit or whether they want to widen their experience in going into corporate finance or alternatively into tax and the various sectors or service streams of tax, such as personal tax, international tax, etc., etc. So the first thing we do is, as I said previously, we have counselling partners, counselling managers that take that look after the staff on a daily basis. We do 6 monthly appraisals, and everyone 6 monthly and yearly appraisals, and everyone will sit down with their counselling partner and go through their appraisal form, look at objectives that they were previously brought up in the and see how they've done against those objectives, and then develop new objectives. And it's all about working together. So it's all about open communication. So it's not just a case of, I've done my form, tick that box, I'll go next year, I'll do it again. This is about constant open communication. And those open communication will also be honest communication. So we will ask them about where they see their career going. Is it in practice? Is it in industry? Is it in a certain sector that they want to focus more clearly on? So, for example, as I said, that we are we're not so sector driven as the Big Four or BDO or GT, but we have asked all our seniors what sectors they would like to work in, and we're starting to guide our working planners so that they get that type of experience. We have a great L&D team, which is a learning and development team, and they're constantly refreshing their training programs. We have training at all the different levels, so seniors, assistant managers training courses specific for assistant manager, managers training courses specific for them, and then senior managers and directors, we have training courses for them, and they'll be varied and they'll be quite varied. They'll be structured but varied, so they may even just be an Excel, how to improve your Excel skills, to business development skills, networking, presentations, all that type of good stuff that we want our guys to start doing. Inevitably, our L&D team is quite fluid at the moment because of the changing world that we currently live in. They're constantly looking at what type of training our guys need for the future, which in itself is very important because, as we've all said, data and technology is really going to be a main focus of the accounting world over the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. What we also do is that for those that want it, we do mentoring. So a number of our guys will be in one department. So, for example, my department, which is a business advisory group, they will be mentored by another person within another group, so that they feel they've got that independence and they're not relying on a partner or a manager within that particular group. We do outside coaching as well for those that want outside coaching and that we feel will help them in their development and their career progression. I think what our culture is what I said previously. We're very collegiate. We're very paternal to a certain extent. We try and make sure that our guys feel challenged, feel developed, take responsibility as early as possible, but also have that comfort that they've got support behind them to help them develop and grow their career.
Okay, fantastic. Cheers for that, Jamie. Darsh, I guess for someone like yourself, obviously you joined Adshine as a senior manager and you've progressed to partner. What advice would you give to people listening in terms of what you need to start doing earlier on in your career and as you progress to qualification and then manager, senior manager, in order to make partnership later down the years?
I think it's pretty simple. Make sure that you find a role that excites you, is the right thing for you, because you are going to spend quite a few years doing it. And if it excites you and you're going to enjoy doing it, you're going to do well in it. And that's the formula that works very well for all of us. Also, I think what's important is ensure you find the firm that's the right size for you. We all know what our personalities would be, so make sure it's the right fit. Be the Big Four, the top 20 to 30 firms, or firms like us, which is outside the 40 to 60. So I would say that is the key thing. The right decision at the right time, I think, means you're going to do pretty well in your career. In regards to business development skills, I learned it purely by asking the partners that were around me at all my firms. I worked in a Big Four, I worked in a mid-tier, and then now in what I call the little big firm. And you find a few partners inspire you and never feel shy. I think it was brought up earlier by Grant that don't feel shy. If it's the right thing, you go ahead and speak to the right people. I don't think at any stage in time any of the partners ever told me, no, that's a complete waste of time. They all were very supportive and at the right time um, gave the right advice, or sometimes it was just me observing or attending networking events. And that's how I learned it. Didn't go to any courses. Didn't have anyone teaching me through manual. It was all done through observation and actually doing it myself. And I think lastly, if you do have some variety of work, I think that will definitely help the progression. The profession has changed a lot and it's going to change even more. Just sticking in one core sector specialism, I don't think is the way forward to make it all the way as a partner. I think having a bit of variety will add not only a better core skills group, but also will enable you to win work for other service lines because you understand that service line better, even though you might not be the hands-on partner in it. So being a relationship partner is good enough these days.
Brilliant. Cheers for that, Dash. And I think the business development thing is key. I think a lot of partners I speak to, they don't necessarily get that training. I think it's almost you get to director and it's a case of you now need to do business development. And it's kind of a little bit scary for some people. And I think it's something that people should focus on more earlier in their careers in terms of getting proper external training and actually start developing your business development experience and skills from day one. It's something very difficult just to sort of turn on when you get to the point where you're going to partner. So that's something I think for everyone to consider. And Grant, I mean yourself, obviously Big Four, we hear from a lot of candidates. Is it a bottleneck? You've got X amount of people going for one job. It's really, really tough to actually get that promotion. You're all battling for one job in a sense. So, I mean, what did you do to differentiate yourself in terms of standing out and get that promotion ahead of others?
Yeah, look, I understand that perception. You know, there are loads of partners, quite a lot of directors, even more senior managers and so on and so on. And, you know, you join as a massive cohort and it feels a bit like university. So, you know, standing out is obviously quite hard in a sort of Big Four. Yeah, but if I reflect on my time, you've got to make connections in the way that sort of feels right for you. So I joined a massive department, actually, you know, it's the biggest and still is the biggest audit department that we have. And actually, I then, just by luck, landed on this job where this manager, who, you know, hadn't met before, worked with him and really enjoyed the way that he had a coaching style, really took an interest in me. But now I transferred into his business unit, which was a lot smaller. And for me, that worked because I could actually get to know, there weren't as many directors in those days, but, you know, you could get to know partners through to senior managers, through to managers, just because they were less. And actually, the work was completely different as well. So I sort of moved into asset management, and I really enjoyed that. You're thinking about investments, you're thinking about whether they, you know, what are the risks around investments, and actually I quite enjoy that sort of intellectual stretch at the time. You know, it's really about doing more than just a job. So the difficulty with all of this is sort of when you've got such a big group and such a big firm, how do you stand out? And for me, when I have got team members, you know, it's about that connection. But it's more than just raw talent. And actually, you know, what the guy said, I mean, Jamie's point was absolutely pertinent, which is, you know, we get retirements all the time and partners, we get directors leaving, we see managers leaving. You know, attrition in a hot market like we have now is quite high. So we always need to replace. And for the right individual, there are loads of promotion opportunities. And sometimes, you know, over the track of sort of 20 years, losing a year doesn't matter. But people get quite hit up about, well, if I go to corporate finance, or if I go to business recovery, or if I go to transactional services, I might miss out on my manager promotion. Actually, it doesn't really matter, you know, and you're a richer individual for that. And often we find guys who might be slightly slow at lower grades, then accelerate through later on because they've had that richness of experience. But I think, you know, for me, as well as that, attitude is really important. And actually, you find that type of person who's willing to take different things, willing to put themselves in new situations. Those are the sort of individuals which I think shine because they're willing to make those connections. And then drawing on that diversity of experience really, really plays through. So your point about business development, you know, actually, for me, suddenly a switch just flicked to director and expected to go and win loads of work. And I hadn't really, you know, never done a sales job, built relationships through the work of it, but I sort of taught myself. And you know, again, someone who's willing to put themselves in a sort of new situation, you've got those sort of key, if you like, cornerstones that you can then draw on to try and, if you like, improve your business development. But certainly as a firm, we are putting more structure around that. So I think, if I look at the teams that work really, really well today, it's a diverse team, diverse viewpoints, and primarily because people have just done different things and different experience. And really going above and beyond, so not just doing the role that you're given. That gets you noticed, and then, that helps, massively helps with promotion.
Fantastic. And I think where you say going above and beyond there, Grant, I actually did a talk at university on Monday about the future of accountancy. And everything that kept coming up was about adding value. And I think the world of accountancy changed now in terms of the whole sort of perception of bean counters and technical accountants. I think that's kind of died now. You are an extension of your client. You're a business partner. It's about adding value. It's about helping with strategy, like Jamie mentioned earlier, helping them with buyouts, acquisitions. It's not a case of just doing an audit or producing a set of accounts. You are there as their advisors. This is their money, and you're there to help them look after it, in effect. So I think what you were saying about going above and beyond, it's about the value you can add to your firm and to your clients, and I think that's key. So I guess just to sort of wrap up, it'd be good to get, I guess, just a brief overview from each of you about why you've stayed at the firms you're at, what you can offer to people listening, and I guess the type of people you would want. So Darsh, do you want to kick us off?
Well, I'd say, I already mentioned it before, the firm, albeit size, 9 partners and 90 to 100 staff, we're an exciting firm, got a variety of work, very interesting, challenging work, and also the type of client. I mean, we've looked after clients that's now probably the third generation, so we've got legacy relationships there, which have been passed over from the or the previous partners to the new partners, and we're still left with those very high net worth families and all their various investments. So it's been mentioned here a few times, it's more than just preparing a set of accounts. It's having key relationships, adding value, being involved throughout their business life cycle, and we're part of it. We are business advisors, and because of the size we are, we don't have as many rigid structures for anyone to progress, do well, to shift departments. It can be done. Everything can be done for the right people as quickly as it possibly can be. And because of that, we have retained a lot of members of staff. We offer everything that every firm, professional firm should, which is regular appraisals, external training, internal training, and a support from the core partner group. Those things are given as a matter of, I would say, obvious. The minute you start either as a graduate trainee to become a chartered accountant, or you've joined us part qualified or as a qualified hire. The firm's going through a lot of good changes. We are growing rapidly, and hopefully expanding the offices, moving perhaps to multiple locations. It's an exciting time for us and the profession.
Fantastic. Cheers for that, Dash. Grant, pick up PwC.
I'll keep it a bit shorter. Great brand, global reach, as we said, pretty much do everything. So lots and lots of opportunity in a real evolution, as the guys have said, around doing different things, using tech, using data. So therefore, it's going to be fantastic in sort of 10 years' time around what you can do at the firm. But we are really looking for, motivated, hungry, enthusiastic individuals, regardless of your background, who really want to take their career and move forward.
Okay, brilliant.
And make your connection, actually, as I say, make your connection, get out of your sort of comfort zone and enhance your personal network, whether that's within the firm or outside.
Fantastic. Cheers, Grant. And Jamie?
So I would echo what the guys have already said in relation to Safway Champness being very similar. We have a global reach. We have a variety of clients, and those clients are household names as well as very entrepreneurial, fast-moving businesses. and in that in itself gives the challenges that everyone wants, because you're always on your toes and dealing with people that are like-minded. There's a couple of other things that I would say. The reason that I enjoy Safri Champness is as I said, the clients. Secondly, I would say the high quality individuals that I work with that keep you challenged on a regular basis. We like the fact that our staff aren't afraid to come forward and challenge the partners, A, with ideas of improving the firm, B, with ideas of client service delivery, and C, just what they want to do to keep their little departments motivated and morale high. So that's certainly one of the reasons why I enjoy Safri Champness. Again, I think we've got a good brand. I think we're in a period of change, and we are looking to be, from a mid-tier perspective, at the forefront of that change. And what does that mean? We'll be looking to bring in data analytics. We'll be looking to bring in other IT service streams to help our clients, to provide new opportunities for us and also for our clients. So it really is an exciting time, and I think Safri Champness is in a good place to start to take forward those opportunities that lie ahead for the profession, as well as the individuals that work within that profession.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, cheers for that, guys. As you can hear, obviously, I think each individual that's just spoken to you has obviously got a lot going on within their individual firms, and it's an exciting time. Now, I'm conscious of time, but we have had a couple of questions in. We're probably only going to have time for one, but I think this is probably actually sort of follows on from some of the things you said about the industry developing. And someone's asked, what's the effect of artificial intelligence on the future of audit? Is it going to reduce opportunities or increase them? Does anyone want to pick that up?
That's a very, very interesting question, and a very good question. It's really AI or data analytics, however way you put it, is going to have an impact on audit. What that impact will be is, I suppose, let's wait and see. But inevitably, one would expect that with data analytics, with technology improving, with the efficiency of technology, some of the more mundane parts of audits will be then taken over by technology. And what does that mean from us as individuals? That means that we will take much more of an advisory role, understanding data, having to deliver that data to our clients, giving our clients much more added value feedback. So what does this mean if the movement shows this? If the journal that's been posted on a Saturday, what does that mean from a fraud perspective? So AI will definitely come into the industry. AI will definitely result in us being looking at things differently and providing a different client service to our clients that we currently have. When it happens, it's coming. It's already starting to happen. When the effects will be felt, who knows? But it's certainly something that we, as a firm, and I would imagine my colleagues that sit here with me, would say are taking very seriously and looking to see how it's going to help us in the future.
Yeah, I think I'd absolutely agree with that. And, in terms of firms, something we're investing in and looking at. I don't think we know the output quite yet, but, what we do know is over time our graduate numbers will decrease slightly. But actually, I think the job will be far more interesting, which is, I remember as a first year ticking in bank confirmations, ticking in big sort of consolidation packs from around the world. And actually, that wasn't the fun part of the job. The fun part of the job is talking to the client, is talking to your team and analysing data, the outputs of it. I think if you've got a parallel with wealth managers, at the moment there's a big push on automated advice. And actually, I think that industry has found that, that hasn't been, if you like, the take-up on that hasn't been as high as perhaps hoped, because people at the end of the day still want to talk to a person. So our clients will still want to talk to people, have a relationship with a person. But I do think that the quality of the job will absolutely go up, and, the opportunities, if anything, will increase, not decrease.
Brilliant. I agree with both of them. I just think it'll just enhance, whether it's audit or transitional services or tax. I think it'll allow us to actually use the data to advise better or do it more, rather than the whole process as we're going throughout the morning.
And I think also help the reputation in the industry, because as we go to AI, we'll probably go to real-time auditing, where it's actually the comfort that clients get, they increase value for the clients, but also just helps the industry and the reputation of the industry, because then we don't have some of these issues come in.
Absolutely, and it's something that we have to do. I mean, it's coming, we have to make it, we have to go with it, and we have to show our clients that we're able to take it on board and produce a different service. And that makes it very interesting, and as we've said a number of times, exciting.
Brilliant. Cheers for that. I guess in summary of the conversations we've had this lunchtime, I think for me as a recruiter, often you hear about the pull of industry and commerce and staying in practice. Is it as exciting? I think the one thing I would take away from today is work in practice is changing. The opportunities are changing, the job's changing, and the whole I want to move into industry and commerce because it's more commercial. I think that no longer applies because those commercial roles exist in practice, and even more so with AI and things like that, and the job changing and becoming more of a business partner and an advisor. Actually, practice can give you everything that people historically maybe haven't thought was available, and that's what I take away. And I think the opportunities are there, and it's a really exciting time to progress your career within practice with all of the firms that the guys have talked about today. So. Thank you for all three of you for joining me today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. My details are on the screen. If you want to work for Add the Shine, PwC or Safri's, get in touch. We do have other clients as well available. But my details are up there. If you've got any questions, please get in touch. But I'm obviously mindful of time. So.
Yeah, obviously mindful now that people are on lunch and time is of the essence. So we'll leave things there and we'll let you all get back to work. Thank you to our panel again. And thanks to everyone that's attended. If you have missed any of today's session, a recorded version of this webinar will be available and sent to you. In return, all we ask is if we can get some quick feedback and some thoughts on what you'd like to explore next time. Obviously, apologies if we didn't get to your question, but as I said, we will revert back to any questions we missed later in the week. Thank you very much.
Cheers.